On the sunny afternoon of March 17, 2023, the Oliveira family's lives would change forever. Victoria Oliveira, a 13-year-old teenager, resident of the Jardim American neighborhood in Ribeirão Preto, in the interior of São Paulo, disappeared without a trace after leaving the Professor Carlos Alberto State School at 12:30. The sky was clear that autumn day, with a mild temperature of 27 and Trore. An ordinary day that would turn into the beginning of a nightmare. Vittoria was described by everyone as a happy and studious girl, studying in the 8th grade of elementary school. The only child of Roberto and Marta Oliveira, a computer technician and a nurse, the teenager had a structured routine. At the age of 13, he showed an interest in dance, participated in the school theater group, and maintained good grades. According to reports from colleagues, nothing in his behavior indicated any problem or intention to run away. She left school like any other day, reported Juliana Mendez, 14, Vittoria's friend and classmate. We said goodbye at the school gate and agreed to talk later about the science project. She seemed normal, even mentioned that she was anxious to get home. Vittoria's routine was simple. After classes, which ended at noon, she would walk 3 blocks home, usually arriving around 12:30. That day, his parents were working, his mother on duty at the hospital, and his father at a technology company in the city center. The teenager had a key to the house and used to eat lunch alone, something that had been common in her routine since she turned 12. The first alert came at 3:45 p.m. when Marta, during a break from work, called her daughter's cell phone to see how she was, but got no answer. Initially, he wasn't worried, thinking his daughter might be studying or wearing headphones. However, after 3 unsuccessful attempts, he began to feel that something was wrong. I called a neighbor who has a key to our house, asking her to check if Vittoria was okay, Marta recounted later. When she called me, saying that Vittoria's backpack was missing and that there was no sign of her, I felt my body freeze. I left the hospital immediately. Roberto was also alerted and left work in a hurry. When he arrived home at 4:30 p.m., he confirmed that there was no sign of his daughter. The backpack was gone. The food he had left separate in the refrigerator was still hidden. A teenager's room appeared normal, with no signs that she had planned an escape. The tablet she used for studying was on the desk, but her cell phone, a Samsung Galaxy A32, was missing. The first searches were carried out. In the neighborhood, neighbors, family members, and family friends mobilized quickly, scouring the neighborhood streets, checking squares, businesses, and even the homes of schoolmates. No one had seen Vittoria since she left school. At 6:23 p.m., Roberto and Marta filed a police report. The incident occurred at the Child and Adolescent Protection Department, DPCA, in Ribeirão Preto. Chief Inspector Dr. Marcelo Ferreira immediately began procedures to locate the teenager, activating the missing child protocol. We are facing a worrying case, as this involves a minor with no history of running away or behavioral problems who disappeared in broad daylight while on her routine commute, the chief stated at the time. The first 24 hours are crucial to finding a missing person. Therefore, we mobilized teams immediately. The Amber Alert, Brazil's missing child reporting system, was activated at 8:15 p.m. that same day. The photo of Vittoria, a teenager with shoulder-length brown hair, almond-shaped eyes, and braces, was shared on all official channels, television networks, and social media. If you want to follow more cases like this that shake up society as a whole and reveal hidden truths, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any investigation. The official investigation began on the morning of March 18th with a collection of statements. At Vittoria's school, teachers, staff, and classmates were interviewed, and the school's security cameras were analyzed. The footage showed Vittoria leaving the main gate at 12:27 p.m., wearing her school uniform jeans, a white t-shirt with the school logo, a pink jacket, and carrying a blue backpack. We analyzed her usual route. There are security cameras at 2 businesses along the way, explained investigator Carlos Dantas. The images show Vittoria walking alone to Amazonas Street, but after that there are no more visual records. It's like she disappeared at that point. Amazonas Street was a residential street with little commercial traffic, which meant fewer surveillance cameras. One of the main initial obstacles was precisely this lack of visual monitoring along part of the teenager's route. In parallel with the physical searches, which now included military police sniffer dogs, investigators began analyzing Vittoria's communications history. With judicial authorization, they obtained access to the teenager's email and social media accounts, as well as the call and message records on her cell phone. It was on the 3rd day of the investigation, March 20th, that the first significant clue emerged. Analysis of Vittoria's Instagram revealed that in the 2 weeks prior to her disappearance, she had been exchanging private messages with a profile identified as in photograph for SNP Professional. The profile, which presented itself as a photography studio specializing in discovering new talent, had approximately 2,700 followers and posts that looked professional. The profile was well designed, with photos of supposed photo shoots, testimonials from discovered models, and even a linked website, reported digital expert Samantha Correa. For a teenager interested in the arts like Vittoria, it might have seemed like a legitimate opportunity. The recovered conversations showed that the profile's owner had initially approached Vittoria with compliments about a photo she had posted at a school theater event. Over the following weeks, he built a relationship of trust, promising an opportunity for a photo test that could open doors to the worlds of fashion and acting. Investigators noted a manipulative pattern in the messages. The interlocutor, who identified himself as Ricardo Silva, a professional photographer, gradually isolated Vittoria, asking her not to discuss the opportunity with friends or family. The artistic world is very competitive, and these auditions are limited. If too many people find out, it could hurt her chances, read one of the messages. In conversations the day before the disappearance, Ricardo had arranged a meeting with Vittoria for the following day, suggesting a meeting point near the school. "I can pick you up tomorrow, after class, on the corner of Amazonas Street and Presidente Vargas Avenue. I will be in a silver Honda Civic. Bring basic clothing to the test." Nothing too elaborate. This discovery completely changed the course of the investigation. What initially appeared to be an unexplained disappearance now pointed to a possible case of online grooming. The federal police were called, and the cybercrimes department became part of the investigation. Technical analysis of the SSP profile and professional photography revealed that it had been created just 3 months earlier, and that the IP used to access it was located in the metropolitan region of São Paulo, not in Ribeirão Preto. The photos published on the profile, after forensic analysis, were identified as images copied from several international photography studios, with small alterations to make reverse searches difficult. This is a classic modus operandi of online predators, explained Federal Police Chief Antonio Passos. They create seemingly professional profiles, build an artificial reputation, and then approach vulnerable minors, offering attractive opportunities. A task force comprised of civil and federal police officers and the public prosecutor's office was formed to locate the person responsible for the profile. Using advanced digital tracking techniques, they were able to identify that the profile had been accessed from an apartment in the Tatuapé neighborhood, east of São Paulo, as well as from a mobile device that had traveled to Ribeirão Preto on the day of the disappearance. The investigation was also hampered by false leads that emerged during the process. A witness reported seeing a teenager with similar characteristics to Vittoria boarding a bus to Franca, a nearby city. But images from the bus station contradicted this information. Another anonymous tip indicated that the teenager had run away with a secret boyfriend to the coast of São Paulo, which also proved false after verification. Vitoria's desperate parents even hired a private detective to assist in the search. Every day that passes is torture. We can't sleep, we can't eat properly, we just want our daughter back, Roberto declared in a press conference held a week after the disappearance, when the case was already gaining national attention. The first significant breakthrough occurred on the 10th day of the investigation, when Vitoria's cell phone signal was briefly picked up on a cell tower in the city of Jundiaí, approximately 300 kilometers from Ribeirão Preto. The device was turned on for just 7 minutes, enough time for the telephone operator to identify its approximate location. It was a mistake by the kidnapper, explained telecommunications expert Rogério Almeida. He probably turned on the device to check something or use an app, without realizing that this would allow tracking, even if only for a brief period. With this information, civil and federal police teams traveled to Jundiaí, concentrating searches in the Jardim Pecambu region, a residential neighborhood where the signal had been detected. Undercover agents began monitoring the area, checking for houses and apartments that could serve as hiding places. At the same time, the digital investigation had made progress in identifying the person responsible for the fake profile. By cross-referencing information from internet providers, phone records, and financial transactions, investigators arrived at a name: Paulo Roberto Martins, 42, a computer technician with a previous police record for harassment of a minor in 2017, a case that had been closed due to lack of conclusive evidence. The suspect had a pattern. He used his computer skills to create convincing fake identities and lure minors into engagements related to the art world. Reported by Delegate Sandra Mello from the Child and Adolescent Protection Department. Police discovered that Paulo Roberto had rented a car, a silver Honda Civic, on March 16th, returning it on the 18th to a rental company in São Paulo. The vehicle had traveled 632 kilometers in that period, a distance compatible with a round trip between São Paulo and Ribeirão Preto, with an additional detour. With a search and seizure warrant, police carried out an operation at Paulo Roberto's apartment in Tatuapé on March 29th. The suspect was not at the scene, but agents found disturbing evidence: a notebook containing hundreds of conversations with minors from various cities in the state, always following the same approach pattern. We found a true predator manual. He had notes on how to approach vulnerable girls, what phrases to use to gain their trust, how to isolate them from friends and family, described Federal Police Chief Antonio Passos. We also found a map with locations marked in different cities, mainly in the interior of São Paulo. A crucial testimony emerged unexpectedly. An ex-girlfriend of Paulo Roberto, upon seeing his photo in news reports related to the case, voluntarily contacted the police. According to her, the suspect owned a secluded farm in rural Jundiaí, inherited from his father, a fact that was not recorded in any official records, as the property was still in the deceased's name. He was always very secretive about that place, the witness reported. On the few times he took me there, I noticed a basement that he kept locked, saying it stored valuable computer equipment. I ended the relationship because he displayed strange behavior, was controlling, and sometimes disappeared for days without convincing explanations. On March 31st, exactly 2 weeks after Vitoria's disappearance, the police located the farm mentioned by Paulo Roberto's ex-girlfriend. Located in a difficult-to-access area, the property was approximately 5,000 square meters, surrounded by dense vegetation, and at least 2 kilometers away from the nearest residences. Leave a comment saying, "Never give up on the truth if you believe that all missing people deserve to be found." On the morning of April 1st, 2023, after 24 hours of discreet surveillance, the police planned the operation to enter the farm. A civil police tactical group, supported by federal agents, surrounded the perimeter at 5:30 a.m. Using a drone, they confirmed Paulo Roberto's presence in the main house, as well as movement in an adjacent building. At 6:15 a.m., the operation was launched. Paulo Roberto attempted to escape through the back of the property, but was captured after a brief chase. In the main house, the police found sophisticated computer equipment, including computers with image and video editing programs, as well as several cell phone chips and false documents. The most disturbing discovery, however, was in the adjacent building. Adapted as a makeshift photo studio, the place had a trapdoor that led to a carefully soundproofed underground basement. There, in a space measuring approximately 15 square meters, the police found Vittoria Oliveira. She was weak, dehydrated, and in shock, but alive, reported Lieutenant João Vitor Mendonça, who participated in the rescue. The place had a bed, a makeshift bathroom, and some provisions. It was clearly a place of captivity designed to hold someone for long periods. Vittoria was immediately taken to the Jundiaí Regional Hospital, where she received initial medical attention. Her parents, who had been alerted to the operation hours earlier, were already waiting at the hospital. The reunion, described by those present as devastatingly emotional, took place in the pediatric ward under medical and psychological supervision. They simply hugged and cried for almost 20 minutes, reported psychologist Dr. Leticia Campos, who witnessed the moment. There were no words, only the palpable relief of being together again. Medical examinations indicated that Vittoria had been abused and was malnourished, but fortunately, she showed no signs of violence, sexual assault. The medical team attributed her relatively good physical condition to the short period of captivity, and the kidnappers' apparent intention to keep her alive longer. The subsequent investigation revealed Paulo Roberto's macabre plan. According to files found on his computers, he intended to keep Vittoria captive for several weeks while producing content for sale on dark web criminal networks. The kidnapping of the Ribeirão Preto teenager was not an isolated case. Evidence pointed to at least 3 other similar attempts in the previous months, which had failed for various reasons. "We are facing a methodical and calculating predator," said Chief Inspector Marcelo Ferreira at a press conference. The evidence indicates that he spent months planning every detail, from creating the fake profile to adapting the captivity. He chose victims in rural cities, far from his base in São Paulo, to make them more difficult to track. In his initial testimony, Paulo Roberto remained silent, exercising his constitutional right. His lawyer claimed he suffered from undiagnosed psychiatric disorders, an argument that would later be challenged by psychiatric evaluations. Forensic evidence. Police discovered that the criminal kept a detailed diary detailing his approaches and conquests, as he called successful contacts with minors. This material would be crucial for the public prosecutor's office to build its case. "The level of premeditation is frightening," commented prosecutor Dr. Claudia Abreu, who filed the formal complaint. He studied his victims for weeks, learning their routines, their interests, and their vulnerabilities. Then, he constructed a specific persona to attract each of them. Vittoria remained hospitalized for 5 days, receiving not only treatment for her physical condition, but also intensive psychological counseling. Her parents received specialized guidance on how to support their daughter through the recovery process, which experts warned would be long and complex. Cases like this leave deep scars, not only on the direct victim, but on the entire family, explained psychiatrist Dr. Fernando Mendes, a trauma specialist. The sense of safety was violated, and rebuilding it requires time, patience, and ongoing professional support. Vittoria Oliveira's case resonated nationally, sparking a wave of discussion about child safety and teenagers online. In the months following the rescue, the National Congress accelerated the processing of Bill 2429-2022, which proposed stricter measures to combat cybercrimes against minors. The law, informally known as the Victory Law, was signed into law November 2023. This case has shown us the flaws in child and adolescent protection systems in the digital environment, said Senator Regina Souza, one of the bill's authors. We cannot allow predators to exploit the naivete of our young people so easily. Paulo Roberto Martins was charged with aggravated kidnapping, false imprisonment, corruption of minors, production of child abuse material, and various cybercrimes. In a trial held in February 2024, he was sentenced to 32 years in prison under initially closed, without the right to appeals and freedom. During the investigation following his arrest, police identified connections to an international network of online predators. This led to a joint operation with Interpol, which resulted in the arrest of 7 more individuals in 3 different countries, all involved in similar crimes against minors. For the Oliveira family, the recovery process was gradual and challenging. 3 months after the rescue, they moved to another city, seeking a fresh start away from the traumatic memories. Vittoria continued psychological treatment and slowly resumed normal activities such as studying and socializing. There were times when I thought we would never see our daughter smile again, Marta Oliveira shared in an interview a year after. The case, but children have surprising resilience. With support, love, and patience, they can overcome even the most traumatic experiences. Roberto and Marta founded the NGO Conexo Segura, dedicated to educating parents, teachers, and teenagers about the dangers of the internet and how to protect themselves from online predators. The initiative gained support from technology companies and expanded to several Brazilian cities, offering lectures, educational materials, and support for families of missing children. The case also highlighted the importance of swift and coordinated action by authorities. Police Chief Marcelo Ferreira, who led the initial investigations, was later appointed to coordinate a task force specializing in cybercrimes against children and adolescents in the state of São Paulo. The technology that facilitates these crimes also gives us the tools to combat them, Ferreira said at a conference on digital security held in 2024. Challenge is to keep our investigative techniques up to date as technology evolves. Digital security experts have begun recommending that schools implement specific educational programs on the risks of the internet. Many educational institutions, including the school where Vittoria studied, have adopted curricula that address topics such as online privacy, recognizing fake profiles, and the importance of reporting any suspicious approaches to trusted adults. We need to teach our young people that the digital world poses the same dangers as the real world, sometimes even greater, noted educator Maria Helena Silveira, a digital education consultant. And this must start early, in an age-appropriate manner, but without creating paranoia. Instagram, where the initial contact between Vittoria and her kidnapper occurred, announced improvements to its systems for detecting potentially dangerous profiles and implemented more robust parental controls. Other social networks followed suit, pressured by both public opinion and new legal requirements. For the investigators involved in the case, the experience taught valuable lessons about the importance of collaboration between different agencies and specialization in digital crimes. Without the cooperation between the Federal Civil Police, the Public Prosecutor's Office, and technology experts, we probably wouldn't have found victory in time, reflected Chief Sandra Mello. This case showed that we need multidisciplinary teams with expertise that goes far beyond traditional police investigations. While Brazilian society absorbed the lessons of the case, Vittoria gradually rebuilt her life. In late 2024, she participated in a public event related to internet safety for the first time, briefly sharing her experience with a select group of educators. "I want other girls and boys to know that not everyone on the internet is who they say they are," she said with a maturity beyond her years. "But I also want you to know that even when bad things happen, it is possible to move forward and be happy again. If you've watched this far, it's because you care about these cases that mark families forever. Leave a comment saying, 'I've watched this far so that I can get to know you and know who really cares about the search for truth.' Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video so more people can learn about this story and learn from it. Together we can create a safer online environment for our children and teens."